Welcome back to Dark Truths Uncovered. Today we are going to talk about a story of power, love, control, and the chilling allegations that threaten to unravel a global icon. Sean Diddy Combs, celebrated music mogul, entrepreneur, and cultural icon, now stands accused in a trial that has gripped headlines across the globe. Racketeering, sex trafficking, coercion, abuse, and at the heart of it all, Cassie Ventura, once a rising star and the woman whose 11-year relationship with Combs is now laid bare for all to see. Sean Combs, known to millions simply as Diddy, built an empire from the ground up. From chart-topping hits to multi-million-dollar businesses, he seemed unstoppable. But behind the glitz and glamour, dark allegations have emerged, bringing him face-to-face with justice. This trial isn't just about a man and a woman. It's about a web of influence and power, where manipulation and fear intertwine. The case is unfolding in a packed Manhattan courtroom, with the nation watching, waiting. The charges are grave: racketeering, a criminal enterprise spanning years, and sex trafficking, involving coercion and control over vulnerable victims. At the center, Cassie Ventura's testimony promises to make or break the case. The trial's setting is as intense as the accusations. In a downtown Manhattan courtroom, with stern-faced jurors and a watchful judge, every detail is under microscope. Cassie Ventura, Combs' former partner, has taken the stand as the prosecution's star witness. Her words peel back the layers of a relationship once shrouded in secrecy. Her testimony reveals years of alleged abuse, physical violence, threats, and coercion, hidden beneath a veneer of love. She describes being forced into acts she never wanted to perform, living in fear of retaliation, blackmail, and humiliation. But the defense paints a starkly different picture. They argue that Ventura was a willing participant in their intimate relationship, pointing to affectionate texts and moments of apparent consent. The courtroom is a battleground of competing narratives, each fighting for the jury's belief. Cassie Ventura was just 22 when she met Sean Combs. She was an up-and-coming singer and actress, bright-eyed and ambitious. Their connection seemed like a fairy tale, a powerful man and a promising young star. But behind closed doors, the story began to darken. She recounts their 11 years together, a timeline marked by love, confusion, and escalating fear. At first, she says, "I thought it was love. I believed in us." But soon, those moments of tenderness became overshadowed by control. Cassie describes nights when saying no was impossible, when threats, both whispered and shouted, became part of daily life, when she felt trapped, isolated, and powerless. Her testimony reveals a pattern: coercion masked as affection, violence hidden behind love. She tells the jury about the so-called freak-offs, staged sexual encounters involving third parties. She says she was forced to participate, fearing what would happen if she refused. Yet even as she speaks, the defense digs deep into her past. The defense begins its assault with precision. Their weapon? The story that love was not a cage, but a choice. Early relationship texts, tender, intimate, emerge as evidence. "I love you. You're my world. Can't wait to see you again." These messages paint a picture of mutual affection. The defense asks the jury, could Cassie have been a victim if she once professed love? Was there coercion or consensual passion? They press for admission that she participated willingly in sexual encounters, known in the trial as freak-offs. The defense's goal is clear: establish Cassie's independence, her agency. They argue she was no prisoner of circumstance. She was an empowered adult making decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence shows a woman who communicated clearly, who made choices, who loved and was loved back. The attorney meticulously dissects Cassie's testimony, suggesting moments of affection undermine claims of coercion. They highlight the luxury and perks she received: gifts, trips, status, insinuating motivation beyond victimhood. Could it be, the defense asks, that Cassie stayed for the benefits? Could it be, they imply, that the allegations are a narrative constructed for sympathy? But beneath these text messages and smiles lies a darker, more complicated truth. Can words typed in the glow of a phone screen tell the full story of a relationship mired in fear and control? The defense's attempt to fragment the prosecution's narrative hinges on this fragile line, a line blurred by time, memory, and trauma. The prosecution is ready. They argue that consent is not a contract sealed once and forever. That consent can be revoked, ignored, crushed under the weight of coercion and violence. They present a chilling pattern: early affection that devolved into a reign of terror, They describe how Cassie's refusal to participate was met with threats of blackmail, physical violence, and emotional manipulation. One witness recalls hearing screams behind closed doors. Medical reports detail injuries inconsistent with accident. Blackmail was more than a threat, it was a weapon. The prosecution tells the jury, even if Cassie once chose willingly, fear soon became the only language she could speak. "I was trapped," she testifies, voice breaking. "I loved him, but I was afraid." The prosecution asks, if fear dictated her choices, can those choices ever truly be called consent? They urge jurors to see beyond the surface, to understand the complexities of abuse. Consent under threat is no consent at all. This is the prosecution's pivotal battleground. They must convince 12 strangers to look past texts and tokens, to see the scars of control, to grasp that love and violence can coexist, tangled, toxic, and devastating. Presiding over this tense trial is Judge Eleanor Marshall, a figure of impartiality and control. From the outset, Judge Marshall has vowed efficiency. This trial, she reminds counsel, will proceed swiftly but fairly. The defense's cross-examination is set to conclude by tomorrow's lunch break. Any extension? At the judge's discretion. This delicate balance between thoroughness and timeliness adds pressure. If the defense attempts to push beyond, they must show new, vital lines of questioning. Otherwise, the judge may call time, safeguarding juror focus and preventing trial fatigue. This ruling shapes the defense's strategy. They must be precise, avoiding repetition, maximizing impact. Every question asked, every text message probed, every pause measured. Because the clock is ticking. Behind the scenes, lawyers adjust tactics. The defense seeks to sow doubt swiftly. The prosecution prepares to reinforce their narrative and redirect. Judge Marshall's firm hand ensures the trial's pulse remains steady, beating towards a verdict. Let's remember the people behind this legal spectacle. Cassie Ventura, 33 years old, born and raised in Los Angeles. A talented singer and actress who once dreamed of stardom. Her life forever altered by a relationship that promised love, but delivered pain. Sean "Diddy" Combs, 54 years old, New York native music legend. An empire builder with a public persona larger than life. His defense insists he is a man misunderstood, falsely accused. Yet in the courtroom, no mask can hide the raw emotions. Every word, every gesture carries weight. As the trial presses on, viewers and jurors alike must wrestle with haunting questions. Can love blind someone to abuse? Is it possible to consent when fear is ever present? How do we separate truth from manipulation in a story so deeply entangled? And most unsettling of all, what secrets still lurk beneath the surface, waiting to emerge? In a case woven with contradiction and complexity, the simplest words, texts sent between two lovers, have become some of the most powerful pieces of evidence. Text messages, by their very nature, are snapshots in time, moments frozen in digital amber. But what happens when those moments tell two conflicting stories? The messages exchanged between Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs tell a tale far more complicated than either side admits. On one hand, there are texts dripping with affection. "I love you," Cassie writes. "Can't wait to be with you," Sean replies. There are moments of laughter, plans, shared dreams. Yet, lurking beneath this veneer of love, darker undertones emerge. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," Cassie types. "Please don't leave me," Sean responds, his words desperate. "The last time, it made me feel dirty," she confesses. These aren't the texts of a carefree romance. They are cries for help hidden within digital exchanges. For the jury, these texts are a puzzle. How do they reconcile affectionate words with expressions of fear and regret? Are these moments of genuine love, or manipulative control masked in caring language? Text messages in abuse cases can be incredibly deceptive. Perpetrators often use affection as a tool, to confuse, to coerce. Victims might express love even amidst trauma, because the relationship is complicated. The jury must consider the context, the power dynamics, the timeline, to understand what these words truly mean. This duality, love and fear coexisting, lies at the heart of the trial's tension. It is a chilling reminder that abuse is rarely black and white. The 12 jurors tasked with delivering justice face a formidable challenge. They are ordinary people, brought into the extraordinary world of this high-profile trial. Their responsibility: to sift through a flood of conflicting evidence, to decide which version of the story is true. On one side, Cassie Ventura's testimony of abuse, fear, and coercion. On the other, defense claims of consent, affection, and independent agency. The human element cannot be ignored. Jurors bring their own experiences, biases, and emotions. Some may empathize deeply with Cassie's pain. Others may question the inconsistencies. Jury deliberation in cases like this is less about absolute truth and more about reasonable doubt. They will ask themselves, does the prosecution prove beyond doubt that coercion was present? Or does the defense's narrative introduce enough uncertainty to acquit? Timeline and context become crucial. When did the alleged abuse begin? Were there moments of genuine consent? Could early affection have masked growing fear? For jurors, the line between consent and coercion isn't just legal. It's profoundly personal. They must decide if a relationship's complicated emotions can ever justify exploitation. Then there is the matter of money. In a related civil suit, Cassie Ventura was awarded $20 million. An enormous sum, and one that the defense wields as a weapon. They argue that this settlement reveals motive. That Cassie stayed for the financial gain. That the story she tells is, at least in part, a performance crafted to profit. But money is a double-edged sword. To some jurors, it could imply a financial incentive. To others, it may seem a small recompense for a decade of suffering, especially when weighed against Combs's vast fortune. The settlement does not prove guilt or innocence. Civil suits often settle for pragmatic reasons, avoiding prolonged litigation and publicity. Yet, in the court of public opinion, it leaves a mark. Jurors are instructed to consider only the evidence presented in court. But human nature means money influences perception. The challenge is to separate legal fact from emotional response. The trial presses on. The defense's cross-examination will conclude soon. The prosecution's redirect testimony promises to deepen the narrative of coercion. Witnesses and evidence will follow, each piece shaping the jury's understanding. The jury must decide, was Cassie Ventura's participation in this relationship consensual? Or was it coerced, forced by fear and violence? Their verdict will ripple beyond this trial, a precedent in how high-profile abuse cases are judged. This case is a labyrinth of love and fear, power and pain. And as the world watches, the question remains, what happens when the powerful hold sway over the vulnerable? The answers are coming, but will they bring justice, or only more questions? Subscribe to follow every twist in this landmark trial, and comment below your opinion.